Oh, finally, we're there. Friends, we're talking about how to support our parents and our families that are in our math classrooms. So, thanks so much for joining me. I'm Shannon Keebler. If you don't know who I am, I know we have those of you who are on our website. We have those of you who are on, which is empoweredlearngrow.com. Those of you who are on our Facebook group, our Math Expressions user group. And we're just glad that you're here tonight. Happy fall, y'all. And let's dive into how we can support our families now that we can take a little bit of a breath. All the back to school stuff has hopefully started to settle for you. And you might even be starting to think about parent teacher conferences, or maybe they just passed and you have some additional communication with parents. I hope that the tips that I give you tonight are helpful in thinking about how do we support families. So I have some ideas for you that I definitely want to share, and then I'll answer any questions that you might have in the comments. So let's get started. Let's share here our screen and get going. So we're going to talk about how to support our parents. The first thing I want us to think about is the feelings that our parents have, because these feelings translate into reactions. Right? So a lot of our parents feel frustrated. And if you get this idea that parents are frustrated or they're defensive, it's usually because they're feeling unintelligent, incompetent. Like it's really a crush to our ego when my second grader comes in and they have their homework and I feel like I can't help my second grader on homework. Right? That doesn't feel good. And that makes me feel unintelligent. It makes me feel incompetent and it makes me angry. So when I'm angry or when I'm frustrated, I start to lash out. I do things like, this is terrible. Why don't they just teach you the way I was taught? And your teacher doesn't know what they're doing. Just do it like this, right? Like some of those comments start to come out, and it's not because they actually feel that way. It's because it's coming from a place of just feeling incompetent. Some parents feel intimidated. So it's easier if I did not feel like I did well in math, or I was not a math person, maybe growing up, then it's very easy to feel intimidated. Learning math in a totally different way means that I don't know that I can help you. And if I can't help you, I don't love the way that that feels. Okay. So it's easier for me to not help. Or to not hold you accountable for it, or not to ask questions because I'm not sure that I understand what it is that you're supposed to be doing. And it is totally different. And for a lot of parents, it means they don't want to mess it up. So that leads to feelings of being intimidated. Some parents feel confused, right? So they rarely see anything that's familiar to them. Like the way that we add it is not the way that you're adding. The way I learn my math facts is not the way you're learning your math facts. So it can feel very much like we're speaking totally different languages, and that does leave us feeling confused, worried, anxious that our children will fail because of us. Okay, so I think that is a big one. I think our parents are equally as concerned that their children will not do well in math for a variety of reasons. Are they not doing well in math because I was bad at math? Are they not doing well at math because I don't know how to help them at home? Are they not doing well at math because it's the new math? Right? There's all of these feelings, but they all come back to we just want our kids to be successful and we want to feel like we're successful parents. So, how do we get both of those in a world that says it's okay to be bad at math? So, I'm going to help you through some of these ideas, and I want you to start to think about the reactions or the feelings, the emotions that you get from parents aren't necessarily having anything to do with you, and might have a whole lot to do with how they personally feel about math. So let's talk about how we can help our parents through this because they're right. It is different. So when we talk about how to get parents on board this year, okay, so let's discuss this. The first thing is very relevant to what I just said, math mindset. I think that's extremely important that we help give our parents the type of messaging that we want them to use at home and around their children. So I will often say, I want you to say statements like this. I want you to avoid statements like this. Okay, so I want you to say statements like, that one does seem confusing. Let's circle that one and ask your teacher instead of feeling like, well, your teacher doesn't know what you're talking about. That's just hard. Just do it the easy way. Okay, when we say those things, it now puts the teacher as the bad guy. When we say that's too difficult, just do it this way, then that's basically covering up our emotions of feeling like we don't understand that. So if we can still say it is honor the idea that sometimes we just aren't sure and we want to hear more. So let's just circle that one. I'm really curious about how your teacher would talk about that one, or what other ways did you learn? So math mindset means that we also have a positive growth mindset. I can't tell you how many parent-teacher conferences I have personally been on where I've had parents sit next to their children and say, well, I get it. I was bad at math too. And I'm like, oh, I wish you would not say that in front of your child. So first of all, you're not bad at math. Okay. Second of all, it's not genetic. Okay. So we are all math people. I'm like, and I just want to try to honor that math trauma. There was probably something that really made you afraid in math class, or there was something that you really didn't understand and no one was there to explain it to you. And we're really trying to change the script this year in your math classroom for your child. And it would be so helpful if you just constantly reminded them, you're a math person too. And there's still things I don't even understand in math. So, child, second grader, third grader, if you can explain it to me, I'd love to hear. It doesn't mean because we're the adult in the room, we have to know it all, understand it all, and be able to do it all. I know we think that, but it's been a long time since I was like in 10th grade geometry. I don't know that I could help my kid at 10th grade geometry. It doesn't mean I should down talk it. It means I should foster a growth mindset. When I don't know, I ask questions. When you don't know, I expect you to ask questions. Not knowing is not a bad thing. Staying stuck is the bad thing. So I want our language to shift and I want our parents to know what does that mean? Because a lot of us are just passing down our math trauma, not aware of the damage it's doing. And none of us want to damage our children. So if we were aware of what we were doing, I think that we would be more careful. And some of us are just not aware. So I want to do that in a healthy way. I want to change our math mindset. Completion does not equal mastery. I also have to set expectations. So when I grew up anyway, it was about mastery is completion, meaning we did a lot of problems, a lot of workbook pages, and we got marked percentages off if we didn't do something completed. We're in standards-based grading now. Okay, that's different. That is a work ethic grade. And I am concerned about that. When you don't complete your work or you don't turn it in, that is an issue for me. But your percentage or your grade is actually not tied to that. Your grade in standards-based grading is whether or not you understand the content. So when you can show understanding, and I'm going to help build that for you with success criteria, what does it mean to understand? Now I'm saying that's really what the grade is that you have. It shows how much you understand of the standard, not your work ethic and how much problems you finish. That also means, mom and dad, that in my classroom, we're doing a lot of rough draft thinking. And so when we take home workbook pages or you see this page come home and it's not completed, it doesn't mean that your child was slacking. It doesn't mean that they were messing around. It means I didn't think that they needed to do more problems. We did the problems we needed to reach my goal for the day. Some of those problems are unfinished in their workbook because we did them together on a whiteboard. We did them on a public vertical space. We did them in groups. So just because you see unfinished work does not mean that your child is not mastering in math class. We don't need 25 problems to meet our goal. Now, there are other issues for us to discuss. When there is a problem, I will alert you, right? So when your child is not completing their work in class and they're being distracted, that's a different conversation. But I also want you to know that just because something's unfinished doesn't mean your child is not mastered. That goes against, or it goes of course also with our standards-based grading of the idea of it takes them all year to master some of these standards. Third grade, it takes you literally all year to get mastered on all your multiplication and your division facts. But we really only get 2 units to do that. Your parents have to know that. Kindergarten, your standards, you can basically not report anything on kindergarten report card for most of us because those standards are year-long standards and like counting to 100, right? Like it takes us all year to be able to do that. Some of those standards are just a year standard. So I'm going to give you grades in the grade book or report cards, and they're going to show progress towards the standard. But just because they're showing progress does not mean that they aren't doing well in math. It means they're not supposed to know it all yet. And this is a work in progress. So we really have to explain that because we grew up in ABCDF world in percentages, right? So that's different. Now my biggest goal is that you learn the content. And if it takes you 1 week or 5 months, it doesn't matter. You'll get the same grade. My goal is that we make progress. This says assess, it should say asset-based language, my typo, my apologies. Okay, so asset-based language is I'm always going to ask my parents to speak an asset-based language, and I am always going to speak an asset-based language. When I discuss children with parents, I always talk about their strengths. Okay, so they fully understand the steps they're supposed to take to do long division. They're continuing to struggle with some of their basic facts, and here's my plan for that. versus they got all their problems wrong because they don't know their math facts. Practice their math facts. I'm like, that's not helpful. Okay, so that doesn't mean they're not mastered. There are parts of that standard they fully understand, and there are parts that they're struggling with. Let me break down which parts they get and which parts they're struggling with so that you can be more of help at home as well. And then I want you to think about this last one here, which is, sorry, I have to unclick it. It wasn't showing on mine. Honor at home methods. Okay, this one's important. So when we're teaching something like in first and second grade specifically, we teach show all totals or new totals below. When we're teaching addition or subtraction, like we have 4 different methods in math expressions for every main operation. That includes the area model, partial products when we're doing multiplication, or expanded method when we're doing division. Like there's more than just one shortcut way that most of us grew up with. Now, our parents are like us. Most of us knew the shortcut way. There was no other way, okay? Or at least we don't remember being taught another way. I do want to couch that. It doesn't mean we weren't taught another way. We don't remember being taught another way because what we practiced until we were fluent was the shortcut, which truthfully, mom and dad, we're going to do too. I do want them to use a shortcut method in the long run. But in elementary school, my job is to build flexible thinkers and kids that have solid place value. So we're going to practice decomposing and composing numbers and making sure that their methods match a visual so they get math. So they're not passing on the tip check, right? And who's figuring out the tip? And they're not saying, well, I was bad at math too. In order for us to change that, if we don't want them coming out with the same trauma, we have to change the narrative now. Okay, so I want them to understand that whatever method they're doing at home, no problem. If that's the method you know and understand, there's no problem. So when John comes to school and he says, that's not the way that my mom showed me, I'm like, oh, show me the way your mom showed you. And I'm going to have him show me. I'm like, oh, that's such a good way. Friend, we're going to actually get there. Now I might say, we are going to get there. We're going to save that one for 4th grade. Or, you know what, when you're at home, you can totally do it that way. When we're at school, I also want you to show me like this, because remember, our success criteria said you had to connect it to a model, or you had to use place value language. And every time you use that method, you forget that. So both are great. Both totally work. Okay. Now there's even different cultures. Like I have done some work in Ecuador. Their long division is totally different there. Like completely different. So depending on where their parents are culturally, they may have a totally different way that they have learned that math. And it is not my job to judge it or to tell you it's wrong. It's not wrong. It's another way. My job is to tell you that in class, we're building some of these other methods to build flexibility and place value understanding. It doesn't mean your method is wrong, but it doesn't mean mine are either. So I'm going to build that flexibility in class. If you're not comfortable with those methods, by all means, if you want to show them your way, please do. When they're in school, though, I'm going to ask them to use my way also. They can do both, but they have to do my way in school because it's showing me X, Y, and Z. Okay, now when I release them long term to do whatever method they want, go with their bad self. They can do whatever they want. Okay, but I don't ever want to downplay or down talk what parents are doing at home. They're not wrong, right? It's just not maybe meeting the fullness of my standard. But if it's how they're going to help their children, I just want help. And that's what I want. So if that's the case, you can say, you know what, just hold that, mom and dad. I know that's the way your method. It totally works. I love it. They're going to be able to use it forever. But would you just hold until the end of the unit to show them that? Parents don't know that unless you tell them. How are they supposed to know? So when I'm starting my multiplication unit, I am very clear with parents. Okay, so I used to host like Fridays breakfast with the math teacher, right? So I used to do all of these Friday breakfasts in my classroom where we played math games and whatnot. But parents would come in. But before a unit, I would tell them, here's what's coming up in the unit. I'm going to teach you 3 ways that we're going to teach your children, right? I had the best show up rate. Okay, I worked in a Title I school, a huge population of free and reduced lunch, mostly EL learners, like very, very diverse, and parents wanted to help. They showed up to those breakfasts. Okay, and they showed up and I taught them those things, but then I would say, so how did you do it? And they would show their kids their way and I would show them my way. Okay, and then we would talk about, but let's hold that. So you can teach it to them, but it's not going to help them understand place value if you teach it too soon. So would you just wait until, and I give them the week, like until the end of October, when we've identified these methods, but mom and dad now did the math with me. They saw it, they now understood it, and they were more bought in versus they see homework come home they've never seen before. They've never seen these methods. And all of a sudden I'm telling them not to show their ways. They're like, really? They're my kid. I'll show them what I want. Do you see how the defense comes out? Okay, so I want you to think about at-home methods are sacred and I want to honor them. I just want to also talk about their place. So let's talk about this next component, which is how to explain math expressions. Okay, so this is how you're going to explain it. Math expressions is built upon a learning path, and this is in your teacher's guide. It's the front of your guide. It's past the pacing guide page before you get to unit 1. Okay, you're going to find this. Every copyright page is a little bit different. Aim for around page 30-ish. Okay, so when we're there, that shows this learning path. And I bring this to parent-teacher conferences. I bring it to my math breakfast with parents. I bring it to IEP meetings. I just want them to see right here. I want you to read formal math methods. We are going to get there. So the carry the one method you grew up with, we're going to teach it. That partial products where you carry, you cross over, you multiply, then you add the numerator, we're going to get there. The keep, change, flip, technically we're going to get there. I'm not going to call it there for that for a long time, but we are going to get there. Those are formal math methods, and I think they're important, and I think kids should be able to do them over and over and over again. But this is the long game. This is really where I need to build understanding. So we're going to do a lot of math talk, a lot of drawings, a lot of building with manipulatives. We're going to do other methods that are not formal math methods. They're considered an accessible algorithm. They totally meet the state standard, even though they're not our shortcut method, and they're totally great. They work because students connect them and they understand what they mean. So when you see all the drawings come home and the models and the other methods, I don't want you to down talk them because they're important in building a mathematician that does not have math trauma, that likes math, that gets math, that can explain their thinking, that can do numbers in their head, that don't need a calculator. But that takes this. So I'm growing understanding in my classroom, and by the time they are finished with elementary school, they will have formal math methods as they go into 6th grade and beyond. That's when they use the formal math methods. But until we get through 5th and 6th grade, we are still building number sense. So when I show them this, I say, does that mean because if you are showing them all the drawings and all the different methods, they're thinking, why are you doing this the long way? Why do you have to take so many steps to do this? I don't know if you've been on the internet lately, but the world is mad about Common Core math. Okay, it's not Common Core math. This is how math has always been. They just don't remember. Okay, and now we're making a bigger deal because all the rest of us could do is computations, and now we have computers and phones and other things that can do that, and we can't problem solve. And we all think we're bad at math. So we're trying to change that narrative and break down thinking, and we are doing it in this way. I also want them to see that there are scaffolds. That means, mom and dad, it's okay if your child uses a multiplication chart when they're doing long division. It's a scaffold. Every kid needs something different to access the mathematics. I don't want them using a chart all the time. So here's what I'm going to do so that I can start to wean them from that chart. I'm sharing all of these things because some of your kids are coming in at formal math methods because mom and dad did teach them over summer break. I just need you to know there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm taking them back down the ladder. I can go both directions. And now I need to break apart the method that they were taught and make sure they actually understand it. So when I teach math expressions, I use this chart to help them understand what they're seeing, why they're seeing it. But you can almost see the exhale of our parents when they see, oh, you are going to teach it. We're going to get there. I'm like, we are going to get there. Okay. They are absolutely going to learn. In fact, I just had my mother-in-law of all people say to me, well, are you finally deciding you can go back to teaching carrying the one? And I'm like, we never stopped teaching that. But by the way, it's a 10. Just for kicks and grins, because why not, right? Family dynamics are always fun. But it was just this misunderstanding that like, now we no longer teach this. I'm like, we absolutely teach it. We just don't teach it in 1st grade. Okay, and we might teach it, introduce it in 2nd grade. It is still one of the 4 methods, but our definition of standard-based algorithms has varied a bit, and we want to make sure that it's based in number sense. So we're getting there, and I love the exhale I see people have of like, okay, I don't have to like lose my cool when I see this other homework come home. We're getting there. So the other thing I want to share then is what pieces do we want to share with our parents? So what do we want to share? We want to share the family letters. You are not doing yourself any favors if you are not sending home those family letters. So remember, they're in the student workbook. Okay, as you're going through your workbook, it's like right there. Now that's in the later copyrights. Some of the earlier copyrights, they're in your teacher resource book, like your Blackline Master book, okay? They're in there like early copyright, like 2013. But most of you should see them either in your homework and remembering book or they're in your actual workbook. And so as you're getting to it in your workbook, you're tearing them out and you're sending them home. In your table of contents, the front of the teacher's guide, it actually tells you where the family letters should be sent. And it's on purpose that it comes home after lesson 3 or goes home after lesson 5, because that family letter explains it all. It tells you the vocabulary. It shows you the methods. It shows you the tools we're doing. It shows you the drawings. Like, if mom and dad will just pay attention to that piece, then it'll help them help their kids on homework. Your parents may not know that. You have to tell them. So I usually, I would say it to my parents at the front of the year at back to school night, you're going to get a lot of papers that come home. Okay. And I'm a parent. I get a lot of papers that come home. Most of the time I empty out their folder and literally it just goes in the trash. Like, I might thumb through them and I'm like, I don't even know. And I throw them away. I'm like, there are 2 pieces of paper you do not want to throw away. Okay. This is one of them. So when this paper comes home, pull it out. I want you to put it in your folder you keep at home of important math papers or important school papers. Because when your child brings home their homework and you don't know how to help them, or you don't know what that method is, or why are we calling it that? What does that even mean? This letter is going to help you. So I want you to put it in this at-home folder. Now, the other thing I've done is I've had kids tear them all out preemptively. I've put them in a folder with the 3 prongs, hole punch them, put them in there, and they're in there by units. And that just goes home, and I'll tell mom and dad, keep this at home. So whenever you get lost, you're going to look at the homework, and I'll show them where they look. It says 3.1. That means you're in unit 3. Go to the unit 3 family letters. I guarantee you there's a page there that's going to teach you how to help your child with this thing. Okay, so an at-home folder is a really good idea of resources. You say, don't throw this one home. But all those papers that get stuffed in those folders, how would they not throw them all home? Like with 5,000 art projects. So we have to make the important things stand out. Decide how you're going to do that. Now, the family letters are coming in, like, I don't want to misspeak, but I want to say like 8 languages, 6 languages, like something crazy. So I'm going to show you my website here in a minute. If you're on Think Central, the old Think Central had some links to this. I don't know if everyone has access to that anymore. So I have them on my website. If you do not have all the various translations of the family letters, you want to go to my site and get them. So when you do have families that do not speak English or Spanish, which are the 2 main languages it comes in, you can send those home. A glossary. Okay, so their student workbook, the actual activity book, has 2 glossaries. There's a volume 1 and a volume 2. At the end of both volumes is a glossary. So they're the exact same. So I have the students tear out the glossary from the volume 2, we staple it, and we send it home. And in fact, it's a great place to put it in those folders with all those family letters, like 3-hole punch it and put that baby in there. Because the glossary is part of the problem. The language is different. And when we say use your stair steps or count on, if you are not a teacher, you have no idea what that means. Like, what do you mean count on? Okay, and then that just fuels the fire of this math they're teaching these days. I'm like, no, it's just you don't remember that language. We've called it counting on your whole life. Okay, but it's not something I'd expect you to remember, because once you mastered counting, you would stop remembering what we called it, right? So the glossary is extremely important. I tear that out. I keep that at home. Okay, last thing here is we discuss the homework expectations. So homework expectations is important. Now, if you serve a community where you do not send home homework, this is not important. Ignore it. But if you have a community in which you send home homework and it is a vertical approach, my favorite schools to this day are schools that have a vertical homework policy, meaning every grade is the same and every parent knows what to expect. Whether you have a 1st grader and a 5th grader, you've got twins at 3rd grade, no matter what, it is the same policy. So for homework, my policy is you only do the remembering side of the homework. Math expressions comes in the homework side, it comes in the remembering side. I send home the remembering faithfully, because it is the spiral. I tell mom and dad, this is spiral. Everything that's on here, they should have learned, they should know it. It should be independent. You might have to help with some problems, specifically the last problem, which is a stretch your thinking. But my expectation is that kids are stretching their thinking. I need them to get used to the feeling of not knowing and having to figure out something, even if it's wrong. I don't actually need you to help your kid with that. I want to see, how do they break out of the rut when they don't know, what do they do next? What do they think they should do? They need to get used to that uncomfortable feeling and not always knowing and working through it. But the other problems, those should be independent. So I also say that in general, your student should work on homework as old as they are. So if they are 8 years old, they have 8 minutes of homework. And so for 8 minutes, I want them to work on the remembering side. If it takes them more than 8 minutes, you're going to stop. You'll circle and sign wherever they finished and just let me know that was 8 minutes worth of work. That speaks volumes to me as their teacher. I can see that they only got 3 problems done in 8 minutes. That friend is struggling. Okay, I need to help them out. Or I noticed that they got through it easily, no problem. I might be able to do some other things for them. Or on the other side of the homework, I might have circled 3 problems. Those are if you have additional time. So you always do the remembering side. And then if there's additional time, I would love for my kids to try 1 or 2 problems on the other side just to see if they can remember what we did today. But I think the homework side is super frustrational. It is still instructional work. We are still learning the concept. We did not master it in one day. So for me to send home that homework that day means that they're at the instructional level or frustrational. And now I'm asking parents to help, and parents weren't there when we taught it. So I'm like asking for this at home. And I don't want that. I want the work to also be actually beneficial and practice things we've already learned and practice spiral. That's what I want the remembering side to be. The practicing what we've actually done, we're going to keep doing it in class till I feel like they're independent, and then I can send it home as independent work. So just tell your parents, what is the expectation? When they get stuck, circle it. Say, we tried to ask them questions. It was frustrating for them. Great. I don't want to battle at home, mom and dad. Just tell me. But when your kid's homework comes back perfect because you checked every question and you basically did it for them, that wasn't helpful either. I'm not looking for perfect homework. Guess what? I don't even give it a grade. It's a completion grade that also tells me how they're doing on the math. So when it's unfinished or you wrote a note, it actually tells me how they did on the math. When you did it all for them or held their hand, it doesn't tell me that. Tell parents. Brene Brown, my favorite thing ever is clear is kind. It is kind to be clear. So you can't expect things of parents that you've never communicated. So if you're frustrated that they're teaching some other methods, okay, that you didn't teach or that they're not supposed to be teaching, how are they supposed to know if you never told them? If you didn't tell them that when their kid gets stuck, they shouldn't have a knockdown, drag out fight, and now their kid is terrible at math, it's because you didn't tell them. Okay, clear is kind. We're going to communicate. All right, last couple things, and I'll answer some of the questions I see in the chat. So parent support, here's what I've got for you. I have for you a document. This is one of my favorites of helping math at home. You can send this home in that homework folder where you say, here's how you can be helpful. Okay, doing math for them, not helpful. But when they're getting started, you can help be a facilitator. I want the cognitive load, the hard stuff to be on your child. So I want you asking things like, so what do you think you need to know? Well, what do you remember about your lesson? What part would you start with? Okay, let's just start with that. No problem. You don't know how to do the whole problem? No thing. But how would you start? Okay, if you were to do the next step, what might you do now? So it tells you what questions to ask when you're getting started, what questions while you're working. The goal is not to help your child get the answer. Your goal is to help your child productively struggle and to help them get through the struggle and to recall on what they know and then to identify the parts that they don't know. Just saying, I don't get it, I don't know is not helpful. What part do you not get? Do you know how to get started? Okay, is it the next step you don't get? Okay, how might I help with that? That's different and that's helpful. So if you'd like this document, just comment parent support in the chat. I'm going to drop it in there for you. It's just a free download. You can grab it. There's some other links for parents to go and investigate about kids using fingers in math class and how that's okay and how to help with fact fluency and all of that jazz. The next thing I'm going to show you as we do that is I have 2 pages for you. So I'm going to drop these links also in the chat. But if you go to empowerlearngrow.com and in the top it says resources, if you click resources, you'll get to a page that says parent support. There's 2 different parent support pages. There's parent support for teachers and there's parent support for parents. Okay, so the parent support for parents is a link you could give them. I also have my YouTube channel, other things that show them how to do long division and show them how to round without traumatizing our child. And right, like I give you basic skills in that YouTube channel. But then also for teachers, I give you the resources and the things, a lot of the things I gave you on this video as resources for you to give to the parents, like the family letters in different languages and all of that stuff. Okay, so this is for you as the teacher. So you have things you can do and help with your parents. This is for your parents, some basic things that will help them. It's not a how-to for everything, okay, but there are some necessary and helpful tips there. So let me share again for our parent support. Let me grab that. So if you're wanting the at-home training, I'm going to put that now in the chat for those of you who are on their website. And then let's check our Facebook group as well. And you can put it in there. All right, so let me answer some questions. Okay, so Lauren says, hi Lauren, by the way. My concern with the remembering side is there is not a ton of word problems, but our district testing is a ton of them. So I've been doing about half of the remembering and half of the homework. Does this seem reasonable? I mean, I think that if you keep in mind the time, right, Lauren, like I think doing all the remembering is a non-negotiable. Like I think that they need that much spiral and all the skills. However, you might still say plus one story problem from the other page, and you're very specific about which one. I think you'd probably get better results if they even did one good one than they try to do lots of them. I also think that you can do the story problem. There's another story problem on the board when they come in, or there's a story problem with an exit ticket on a must do or may do list. I just think that I don't think you want to skip all the remembering. I think they're going to need to do all that. But if you want to add some problems from the other page and you're not getting a lot of flack about it, I think you could. Story problems are hard. And if they need more additional practice, then, and you know that as their teacher, then by all means, I think you can assign them. I think you just need to gauge that. Is it turning into instructional and frustrational, or can it be independent? So maybe even if it's story problems from like 3 units ago, right? Or the first unit, I don't know. You can play with that, but trust your judgment. Like, you know what your kids need, and you know when it's probably too much. Okay, yeah, give it a try and let me see. Hi, Erica, glad you're here. Okay, I just put that parent support there. Let me refresh in our Facebook group. I hope this was helpful tonight. I'd love for you just to put in the chat one thing you heard that you're like, I'm going to really drive that part home, or I want to do more of this. The more we partner with our parents, I think the better it is for all people, mostly our students. So again, reach out with any questions or concerns. Here are the links again of the website pages. So this is the one. This should take you there for teachers. And this is the one for parents. You can get them both on our website at empowerlearngrow.com. And we'll put this one in. And then just comment parent support if you want the direct link for the Math at Home document. Awesome. Great. Lauren, I'm so glad that was helpful for you. Remember, all of the feelings we get from our parents have to do with their own insecurities. I keep this in mind when I work with teachers too. A lot of the feelings I get from teachers have to do with their own insecurities, right? So we're trying to change the narrative and help break down what they think is dumb is only because we actually don't understand it ourselves. And the more we understand it, the more we're like, oh, now I get it. And now we know how to teach it. All right, friends, have a great evening. Happy Math Crush Monday. And until next time, we'll see you then. Bye for now.